Jumping into the first segment, we have a meme segment for you, and it's a short clip, about a minute clip, of Joy Reid absolutely melting down over the election results at the Iowa caucuses this past week because Trump ran away with it by a mile. I think he outpaced second place, which was Ron DeSantis, by something like 30 points, and the previous Iowa record was, I think, Bob Dole at like 12 points.
Dane, was Russia involved?
Always, I think, yeah.
Russia was involved.
Because the second thing that you learn about democracy in the Schoolhouse Rock version is that after it's the greatest thing that's ever been created in the history of all things, is that it doesn't work at all if the wrong person wins.
They say that you have to subvert democracy if the wrong guy, not even the wrong guy, just a guy that you really don't like gets in there.
Right. And so that's what we're talking about in the meme segment. And for you newbies, the meme segment is the part of the show where we destroy memes, both past, present, and future. Because memes aren't just funny pictures that we all like to share on the internet. I mean, it is that very often, and we enjoy it just as much as the next guy. But memes are also to the broader society, to culture, what DNA is to the organism. It's the information that gives it its form and function. So there are constantly memes being generated that you are told to believe, and if it supports the narrative, or not believe if it doesn't support the narrative. And we are here to give you the ammo to destroy the bad memes and hopefully replace them with better ones. So the bad meme here is exactly what the promoters and defenders of democracy will always tell you that democracy is. It's this sacred sort of secular religion, and that it always leads to the best outcomes because the people, the voice of the people will be heard, and the best possible person to be elected for a particular office is the one who will win.
The people.
Unless they're not.
The people. You didn't...
I know. Listen, I said it knowing you were going to go that route,
like
so I step aside and allow you to.
Like holding in a sneeze, like. Well, anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So anyway, Joy Reid's meltdown, which you're going to get to hear, and Nameless Faceless Guy is going to put it up here for you video consumers to see it. This is just indicative of the quote-unquote defenders of democracy, as I'm sure Joy Reid would tell you she is. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, first of all, good on you. She has a show on MSNBC called Read Out, and she is...
That's clever.
Yeah.
I like a good quip.
And she is, just like her other compatriots on MSNBC, complete brain-dead drivel, only capable of regurgitating whatever the prevailing narrative is that supports the regime, and anything that opposes it, she vehemently hates it. That's basically her brand in a nutshell.
Fun story, true to, about MSNBC is they wouldn't show Trump's speech. They didn't even show his,
No, of course not.
When he was up there saying, DeSantis, he's doing great, he's doing a lot of good things. Vivek's smart guy, really happy to have him on the team. Nothing. Me and Rachel Maddow was like, it's an abomination. What he is, and he spreads misinformation. And we had... Sorry.
Yeah.
But he spreads misinformation, but you still get that clip of her saying, you can't get it, you won't spread it.
Oh, of course. Yeah, not misinformation.
So, just hypocrisy about. Anyway, go ahead, Dane.
Anywho, so we have a clip about a little over a minute, about 1 minute and 10 seconds, of Joy Reid absolutely melting down and then giving you her room temperature IQ analysis as to what happened in Iowa and why. How is it possible that Donald Trump could win 51% of the vote when, don't you know, haven't these people in Iowa heard that he's under 6 indictments and that Russia helped him win in 2016? And, whatever insert flavor of the month, anti-Trump narrative Joy Reid has been fed by her betters today. Don't they know all of these things? Don't they tune into my program? Says Joy Reid. Or at least that's what's implied here. So
apparently Iowa be wildin'.
So we have the clip here because, we didn't want to cut through all of the MSNBC shit, but the Megyn Kelly show clipped out the relevant minute, and so that's where we're pulling this from. So that's what you're going to see at the start of the clip here, and then you're going to get to see and hear what Joy Reid has to say. So, Joy Reid melting down about Trump's win in Iowa.
the important sort of data point that this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, especially tonight. Earlier today, reached out to Robbie Jones from the Public Religion Research Institute, knowing that we were going to talk about Iowa. And this is a hyper-evangelical white state. And he said the following to me: Iowa is about 61% white Christian. The country as a whole is approximately 41% white Christian. And in Iowa, we're talking about evangelical white Christians. Because I asked him, what do they get out of supporting Donald Trump? Because he keeps losing, he keeps delivering losses and losses. And he said the following: they see themselves as the rightful inheritors of this country, and Trump has promised to give it back to them. All the things that we think about electability, about, what are people gaming out, or none of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American, is a less real American. Then you don't care about electability.
So, David, I know we're not evangelicals, but we are white, and I guess 50%
of us are Christian.
Am Christian.
I was raised Christian, yes.
Yeah.
Catholic, to be precise.
So it sounds like you and I are the problem.
Yeah.
Because
I'll tell you what.
Although she, keeps saying Christian and evangelical, which I'm sure really grinds her gears, it seems to me that the white part is carrying a lot of the weight for her in terms of who's at fault.
Imagine somebody said, okay, just imagine.
Don't even say it, because it's going to get clipped up and
imagine if it was
purple or something that's
yeah. Imagine just take white out and replace it with any color you can think of, and what kind of backlash that would have from her side, saying that was incredibly insensitive and racist. But again, I just it's so. It tells the whole story that she just called a friend knowing that they were going to talk about Iowa, and he just so happened to come up with the conclusion that these white evangelical Christians think that God gave this country to them and he's going to give it back to them. It's like, how simplistic and demeaning is that to the people that voted for him? And then, by the way, it skirts the entire issue of, well, if that is true, why wouldn't they listen to a voice of reason like MSNBC? Why wouldn't they listen to a voice of reason like CNN? Is it because every time they turn on those programs, all that they hear from those programs are how bad their viewpoint is, and that their guy is literally Satan incarnate when, I don't know, the guy they have in the White House with their letter in front of his name is... he could be at least inept at his job, sleepwalking through it, at worst, guilty of treason. So, again, it's like, of course, she doesn't seem like she studied the Bible too much. I believe Jesus said, look thee at thine own ass first.
Yeah, I believe that's a direct.
I believe Jesus was a little loose that day. He had a little bit too much of his own sacrament, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I believe what Jesus said is, he who is without sin cast the first stone, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's basically telling you, hey, clean your own house, Jordan Peterson, before you go into somebody else's house and start telling them what they need to do.
Yeah. And, she starts off that clip, kind of what we were telling you on the lead-in is, if the electorate isn't the correct skin color or religion in Joy Reid's estimation, they will vote incorrectly. Therefore, democracy doesn't work, especially if there's too many of those people of that color and of that religion voting in, a particular geographic area, in this case, the state of Iowa. So, just keep that in mind when you listen to some of these talking heads. And again, for our Australian listeners, our people around the world who are not Americans, I'm sure, you have similar race baiters in your own country, maybe to a less extent, because the United States is a very multicultural society. So it is more of a function of America than, say, like Japan or China, where almost nobody is there that isn't Japanese or Chinese. In a multicultural society, if you live like that around the world, you probably have the same sort of race baiters, just like Joy Reid. They have absolutely nothing of substance to add to the public discourse. It's just pure hatred, sophistry, and division. Up and down. That's all she has to offer. But yet, she has her platform and she has, her megaphone because she says exactly what those who control her want her to say. But moving on into some other memes that are kind of embedded there into what she's telling you is, if you listen to her and just take what she has to say at face value, then the only reason that Trump ever has any sort of electoral success is exclusively because of angry, aggrieved whites who think that this country belongs to them. Well, the problem with that meme, Joy, and that narrative, which that meme aims to support, is that among all Republican candidates, I think in all of history in the 2020 election, Trump performed the best among minorities than any of his other Republican counterparts. And when he won in 2016, now that, we have the benefit of hindsight, knowing for a fact that there was not a result of Russian collusion of why he won, many of the swing states that he won went for Obama in 2008 and 2012. Now, unless a bunch of white Christians just moved into those districts, for the 2016 election to make sure that they could, give those districts and those states, those swing states to Trump in 2016, that would seem to suggest to you that there's a lot of non-whites that voted for him. Now, why would they do such a thing? Is it possible that maybe there was something he said about, being at least less hawkish than Hillary Clinton on foreign policy, or maybe that he said something about wanting to bring jobs back to America and maybe they felt displaced because of the job loss around the world, or maybe it could be any of the other numerous potential things that he might have said that they could have agreed with, other than the fact that I'm an aggrieved white and I deserve this country and he's going to give it back to me. So again, if you're going to keep trying to run with this narrative, keep trying to run with this meme that it's just aggrieved white Christians and they're just angry at being replaced and Trump is their last-ditch effort to hold on to the power that they've always had and wielded over all of us poor, hapless minorities for all these years. If that's your narrative, Joy, you're going to have to, at least if you're going to pass the laugh test, which you don't to anybody that's paying attention, you're at least going to have to reckon with these hard numbers that point out that your entire line of argument is complete and utter fabricated bullshit. But the watchers and listeners of this show now have some ammo to destroy whenever you say that stupid shit, and hopefully when their friends and family try to regurgitate whatever it is you said, they'll be able to destroy it as well. But, the fact that she continues, and I'm repeating myself here, so I'll stop after this, is the fact that she continues to have this platform despite the fact that she says not only demonstrably false and disprovable things based on hard objective data, voting data from the last two elections, not to mention this one, is a testament to nothing other than the fact that you don't get questioned as long as you support the narrative, especially on mainstream media. And if you are of one of these protected classes, as Joy is, you can infinitely fail upwards. And nothing will ever happen to you unless, you do something really egregious like the former president of Harvard, plagiarizing and stuff like that.
Or Don Lemon.
Yeah. That's why she keeps her job, and it's not because she has anything important or profound to say. It's nothing but pure division, hatred, and, splitting this country in two, which oddly enough, she always accuses Trump and his side of doing, but, I repeat myself.
Well, I just have two tack-ons there. If they actually listen to themselves, he, Donald Trump, is going to give the country back to them. Doesn't that imply that they feel like the country was taken away from them? And if that's the case, how do they feel like that? if we were really focusing on being a country, you would ask the question. Usually in this country, when somebody had a problem and stood up and said, "Hey, we need help with this," a politician would say, "Okay, I'm going to help you with that. Let's figure out a way to help." Now we don't do that anymore. If you have a problem and it doesn't suit their narrative, they just call you whatever name they call you and brush you aside. Which brings me to my second point. Joy Reid had with that
Filibuster?
No. Bombastic. There we go. Bombastic diatribe. That's the same kind of verbiage that was used back in the 1950s to say the same thing about the African American culture. They were not smart enough. They're deplorables. They don't have the same size brain as us. They can't do that. And the only reason they're voting for that is because they're too dumb to know that he's a bad guy.
That's what Jim Crow was based on.
It's like verbatim.
It was based on keeping black people away from the polls because they wouldn't vote the way that the Democrats wanted them to vote. You see, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Dane.
Yeah.
With all that being said, you got anything else on this topic?
Just one more thing. It wasn't in this clip, but I did see where she said elsewhere on that platform. Is she was explaining why Nikki Haley didn't do better because Nikki Haley came in third place behind DeSantis. And part of her explanation, if not
she's a woman.
All of it, was not that she's a woman, but that she's a brown woman. Because,
Nikki Haley is a brown woman?
Yeah, I believe she's
like
Indian.
Is she like Elizabeth Warren?
No, I think
same
she's
tribe as
she's legit like Indian. I don't remember if like her.
I want to shit
like
on Elizabeth.
One of her parents. Yeah,
always. I just want to shit on.
Always, yeah.
I wasn't defaming Haley. I was shitting on Warren.
Yeah, which
context it matters.
You know, I thought it was especially hilarious. Now again, as we've kind of explained to you, and if you didn't already know, yeah, you now do. Joy Reid's not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay, so she's only capable of thinking in very linear terms about very surface level things. In this case, literally the surface color of someone's skin, or
but they don't see that on that side, Dane.
No, yeah,
they don't see that.
Yeah, or you know the gender that Haley is, because again, it's not just white Christians; it's white Christian men. That's what's terrible.
There it is. Gotta get rid of them.
So anyway, Reid goes on and you know, she's wailing and gnashing in teeth about how the Republicans are not, why aren't they, you know, welcoming Nikki Haley in from open arms because she's respectable and she's this and she's that and she's whatever. Well, Reid conveniently chooses to forget or not mention that Nikki Haley is, and I'm not saying this to be, you know, aggressive or anything because she is a woman, but she is a whore for the military-industrial complex. She will do whatever she is commanded as long as the money keeps flowing in. If there's a war out there, she wants to go for it. She's the Republican Hillary Clinton. There is not a war that she hasn't seen that she doesn't want to get involved in because her military-industrial complex masters, her donors, will keep pumping the money to her for it. And I thought that was particularly funny that Joy Reid would say that Nikki Haley should be the person that the Republicans should choose because she's a woman of color, but that's of course why they won't choose her. When I'm thinking, it's Nikki Haley's policies that has the most innocent, oftentimes brown, people around the world that are the most terrified of a Nikki Haley presidency, much more than Trump. I don't know about DeSantis because I don't know where he stands on foreign policy. He's pretty mum on most of it, other than support Israel at all costs. But Nikki Haley wants to just keep dropping the bombs everywhere. So on the one hand, Joy Reid will tell you, I care about diversity and equity and inclusion and, you know, woman of color and blah, 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 blah.
Platitudes.
But out the other side of her mouth, the real practical, real world implication of that is poor brown people around the world continue to die needlessly because the politician that Joy Reid wants those white Christian Republicans to vote for is the one that will drop the most bombs on most of those people. Isn't it funny how that works? It's always like David says about it's the box versus the wrapping. She likes the wrapping of Nikki Haley. She doesn't really care that what's inside that box is military industrial complex, spending as far as the eye can see. And isn't that just grand for Joy Reid, the humanitarian diversity and equity and inclusion advocate of our times, the great mental and moral titan of our times, Joy Reid. Doesn't really care as long as the poor brown people are being bombed on the other side of the world, as long as we elect the right color person on this side of the world. Or not even just elect the right person, as long as we hate the whites in America more than we care about the poor brown people around the world,
blame them.
Let's vote for whatever politician is going to get one over on this group, and who cares about that group?
As long as my team wins, right?
Yeah.